The history of formal education in Nepal dates back to the Ranas in 1853. They exercised executive power as Prime Minister for 104 years, keeping the Shah rulers as their puppets. The schools they opened only served the rich and those close to them. After the introduction of democracy in 1951, although National Education Planning Commission was founded in 1954, not much progress occurred in education. In 1960, Mahendra, a Shah ruler, introduced one-party panchayat system and tried to do some reforms. For example, the All-Round National Education Committee in 1961 and the National Education Advisory Board in 1968 were founded to refine the education system. What these reforms did, however, was cemented the grip of the panchayat system. All the political leaders, including the then King Birendra, tactically used the education reforms to make people show more allegiance to the panchayat rule. It was after the reintroduction democracy in 1990, however, that the higher education sector received a good deal of attention from the state and many reforms followed. Even the involvement of private sector has to be well regulated by the state, showing the undesired consequences of not regulating the private sector involvement in education sector. Eminent sociologist Pramod Bhakta expressed his views.
Then it also risks becoming more powerful. Yeah? We have seen that in the case of Nepal. So as the share of enrollments in private schools have increased, private schools have also become more organized. So institutionally, so they have these interest group or umbrella organizations, and they are able to register implementation of some regulations. For example, in Nepal, they have registered attempts to decrease fees, set ceilings, and then private schools have also opposed this introduction of taxes on their incomes. So as they grow in size, they are also able to physically challenge, a lot of regulatory provisions introduced or to be introduced by the state. And the second is, then they would also be able to challenge the public provision of education because of the sheer size. And so rather than being, a supplementary actor in the education, so in areas where their share is high, they would be the core actors, as has already been the case, for example, in Kathmandu. So then it will be more and more difficult for the government to be regulating the private sector. So I think it's very right time now to have more stronger regulatory mechanisms. So these stronger regulatory mechanisms need not necessarily mean mechanisms to stop the operation of private schools, but they would be mechanisms to
However, politicization of education sector has dampened the efforts for reforms, and this should be checked. Kedar Bhakta Mathema, former Vice Chancellor of Tribhuvan University, expresses his views.
Education in Nepal. Number one recommendations, not number two, not number three. Number one recommendation is depoliticize higher education. The faculty members, the academia should remain free from politics. When I say free from politics means free from interference from political parties. Being an intellectual, being an academic, he or she will definitely have his own thought or views, political views. I'm not questioning that. But if he or she is affiliated to a certain political party, then how can he be an academic? How can he be an objective analyst? Okay, this is a problem in Nepal. That's why we have been insisting that, to be honest with you, student politics should be out from the university. Teachers politics should be out. That what I mean by this is political party should keep their hands off the universities and academia.
And right now the medical education bill is in the parliament, but in this situation.
The prospects of higher education, despite some problems, looks quite promising. However, some issues need immediate attention. For example, although international academic programs have been run by some colleges, some challenges remain for their effective implementation. Suresh Lohani, who instructed Cambridge A-level programs in Nepal for 1.5 decades, share his views.
I taught A-level courses for almost 15 years. A-level courses are affiliated to the Cambridge University of England. A-level courses have totally different curricula from the kind of curricula we would otherwise teach in traditional Nepalese classrooms. However, I was not really trained to teach A-level courses the way they perhaps had to be taught, and the story of my other colleagues were no different. That's why I can say, like, we were pretty undertrained or unprepared to teach those courses, though it is of course a matter of pride. It's really good that now we have colleges offering international courses in Nepal as well. However, it's equally important that teachers are trained well and that we have the infrastructure to
Some notable changes have been seen in the Nepalese higher education sector after the reintroduction of multi-party democracy in 1990 in terms of liberal policies. The governments that comes after the change continued liberal policies, attracting the private sector to generously invest in education. Nepal's climatic favorability, political stability, and low cost of living should also be an attraction to students from different corners of the world. Politicization of higher education institutes should stop. However, the government should try to check the students seeking higher education abroad and invest more in providing globally accepting education at affordable cost. Despite a heavy investment from the private sector, a lot still has to be done by the government in terms of investing more on teacher training and infrastructure development. In addition, the government should also initiate pedagogical reforms so that education provided by higher educational institutions translates from mere parroting of theoretical knowledge to engaging students in applied learning that is on par with the latest developments in global pedagogy. Given all the bright prospects of the higher education in Nepal, however, a pressing question still needs to be answered. To what extent is the government willing to invest in higher education when other sectors such as healthcare and infrastructure should